Welcome back to Capital Conversations. I'm your host, AJ Smith, and today we are talking to a true original, someone who isn't just investing in real estate in just multifamily apartment complexes or just doing single family flips or just doing one thing. He's actually a man who's invented his way to wealth, one of the first people that I've ever met to make money off of an invention. So Troy Helton, he started out owning a cell phone business in the early 2000s. He became a mortgage broker during the 2008 financial crisis. And after the crash, he flipped over 200 homes across multiple markets. Troy was the inventor of the Easy Wash wand, which he will tell us a little bit more about later. And that helped inspire and complement two further businesses that he'd have in the future: AFM pressure washing and AFM construction. Now he owns multiple mobile home parks alone, solo, no partners, and is actively expanding Troy Built Communities by bringing new capital partners on board. This episode is for anyone looking to build a legacy with their own hands, quite literally. Let's dive in. Troy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's go way back. Would you tell me about that cell phone business? Was that your first business venture, and what made you take that leap into business?
So, yeah, I was 24 years old and pretty good with sales. And I had been working a construction job and worked my way up to where I kind of felt like I was capped out, and had recently gotten married, just bought my first home, and decided to take a leap of faith. And I had a friend in the cell phone industry who said, man, I can help you out and get you involved and maybe get you in with us underneath our parent company as your own business owner, but putting your activations through us. And I withdrew my 401k account, and my folks pitched in a little bit of cash on top of that. And I opened my first cart in Del Amo Mall, which is in LA, in a pretty decent spot, but a pretty rough spot compared to where I was from. So I opened that first cart, and man, I was doing it from leaving San Diego County in the morning at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., fighting traffic up there to LA, getting there at 9 o'clock because the mall's all open at 10, getting everything ready, inventory's done, selling until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, depending on whether it was a weekday or weekend, driving back to Escondido and doing it again, and 7 days a week. And man, after about my first 90 days, my sales numbers were really good. I had 160, 180 activations a month, and went to a guy who kind of trained me for the parent company that I was underneath, my friend's company, and started telling him a little bit about what I was doing, and got him involved as the floor manager, basically sales manager, hiring, staffing, doing all that. And I went out and got a second location in Fox Hills Mall. And that location was incredible in Culver City, though, right off the 405. So really rough area again. And we just kept growing and ended up a few years later with, we had 14 locations, 2 of which were inline stores. We were all over Southern California. We were activating 1,000 to somewhere around 1,000 lines a month. During Christmas was crazy, way more. Branded all our own, like our accessories for the phones. Back then it was big, get a phone charger, little leather carrying case or whatever it was, because this was in the early 2000 basically. And cell phones were still, you were selling the phone or giving the phone for free and getting the activation fee. And overnight, I guess you'd call it, we were underneath, I had my own master agency at this point. Of course, after our first 2 locations, I dropped out from underneath them, got a master agency program with MCI WorldCom Wireless, and was doing fantastic with them. They were helping us expand, paying for kiosks, first month lease, had big credit line on phones, and it grew into something that was just a monster. We had a little over 100 employees, 2 district managers, manager for every location, assistant managers. We had a training center right in Culver City where we'd bring new people in and train them. And we had a van with a little box trailer behind it for the busy times, but the van would make deliveries to all the 14 locations twice a day because theft and robbery was so crazy in some of these malls. Then WorldCom sent us an email one morning when I had my first baby and was home and was going to take some time off. And I had invested into a mortgage company with my cousin at that time because my cousin was needing somebody to come in, help in an office and do this and that. And so I put some capital into that, and I really liked the whole mortgage business in a whole when I was with him, and started riding around with him and taking guys golfing and trying to get accounts set up and do different things. And during that same time, I got an email that MCI went Chapter 7 bankrupt on us in one day, and we literally lost everything overnight, like just from hero to zero. Had to just shut every location down. It was big change in lifestyle immediately. I built this huge deal, me and my partner, and really just thought we kind of were at a point to where things were really going to start flowing in direction that we were going to get to do whatever we wanted to do. So I had started that mortgage business with my cousin and was going to help him on that. And man, as soon as that happened, I probably took a month for me to really grasp and working. I had my brother-in-law was our attorney, and he was a partner in this big attorney outfit that's still in Southern California, Kring and Chung. And I called him, and he's like, man, you just need to not answer your phones. You need to take some time. Like, you're going to have people all over you. This is terrible. Just let me handle everything from here, and we'll talk every day. And about a month later, I just couldn't handle any more negativity. And so I had been in the process of getting my real estate license. And so I scheduled for my final exam and got my real estate license in California. This was all in Southern California, and started doing the mortgages, took off from there. And that's how I rolled into the mortgage thing. It wasn't something like I was wanting to get into that industry as much as it just presented itself to me, and it was a blessing. And I had some good years doing that as well. But the cell phone business was definitely an experience. I was way too young to have that kind of responsibility and growth and all the things, but it worked out to where I learned some lifelong lessons and was very fortunate to be part of that whole thing.
So when you had 100 employees, how old were you at the height of it?
27, probably 28.
Wow. And so you went from 24, you're just like starting with this company, to 27, you've got 100 employees, 2+ locations.
We had, man, really quickly within the first 12 months, I think I had 4 or 5 locations.
Yeah.
And then within the first 24 months, we had 14 locations.
14 locations in 2 years. It seems like to have that kind of growth, you must have figured something out about sales. And I don't care what industry you're in, I don't care where you are. Sales is incredibly important as a skill set. And I think there's a lot of people that don't know how to do it well. So I'm curious to learn from you. What are some of the lessons that you learned as you were scaling that company that was really all about sales?
Man, the biggest thing was training salespeople. That was 100% the key to it. Getting people staffed and trained up to where they weren't misleading customers at every sale, because they were all commission based back then, 2001, 2000, right around then. They were making $40, $45, $50 an activation on every phone they activated. And they're standing in the middle of a mall in this great location with thousands of people walking by them. You couldn't shop online. So, I mean, the malls were just a different monster back then, right? So that was really the key to that business, was getting good salespeople trained up, knowing what they were talking about, knowing every single plan, and then educating the people on why they would want to pick which service. So MCI was very unique. We sold Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, and Verizon all under the Sprint, or all under the MCI mother hub. So we could look at their zip codes and figure out, because back then there was new cell towers going up everywhere. And so it was constantly changing. Zip codes were constantly getting better under certain cell phone carriers. So it was really just staying up to month on what was going on in the marketplace, and then educating the people that are purchasing phones or getting phone services. And at that time, they were just starting to offer like the family deals where you'd get 3 phones, 4 phones, and they'd be making $200, $220 in commissions in 30 minutes. So it was imperative that we put into place a training program, and we trained 5 days a week. We had a trainer, Christian, great kid from San Diego, and been in the cell phone industry since he was like 16 years old. And he would just train people. And another guy, Justin, that lived there right by that. He was my first employee. Like, first, I had another girl that I knew from San Diego that had been in the cell phone industry. And when I got to a point to where I just couldn't do 7 days a week around the clock anymore, I brought her in. She started to help me manage that location while I went and opened the second location. And then I hired Justin, came aboard because he had worked for a bunch of other cellular companies up in LA. So he knew tons of salespeople, so we could actually scale and start. And I was getting leases from Westfield Shopping Corporation. Like, I would get phone calls on a Wednesday, and she'd say, "Hey, I've got a location coming open in 60 days. If you want it, come in, meet with me." And I had a really good relationship with her, and it just started. I mean, it was a snowball effect like you've never seen it. It went from me making a living in the first 60 days to me thinking about, this isn't just a living anymore. This could be an absolute game changer. And so we just dove all in, and my wife's really, really good at adapting to whatever I decide I'm going to move forward in. And she's been really resilient throughout the years because I've taken a dive into a lot of different things, and she supported me and helped and did whatever she could to help when we were growing. And man, we just kept on grinding and growing, and it was all about sales. I'm telling you, it's like anything. It's getting the relationship with that customer in a very short period of time and relating to them in some way or another, or educating them to where they trust you, and then not screwing that up. And that was the hardest part, was the not screwing that part of it up, because cell phone industry is like car industry almost, where if you're a good salesperson in the car industry and you're getting referral customers, I mean, you could literally just make a living off of referrals. And that was the same way as the cell phone industry. If somebody lived right there by the mall and you did good with them and you told them everything properly and you didn't oversell them and just do something that was a snake move per se, then they would bring you referral customers all the time as well. They're always in the mall. At that time, early 2000s, the malls were like, that's where you went to shop for everything there. That was just, if you had a mall nearby, that's where you were going shopping. You weren't going shopping anywhere else. There wasn't online sales. So that created a huge opportunity. And then we started later on down the line, after we opened the kiosks and stuff, we had there was what was called an inline store, which is now what most cell phone carriers are leasing and buying, which is the stores that are within the malls or within a big shopping center. And we opened one of those at Panorama City, and that was an incredible deal. It was just, the trust it was easier to gain trust, I guess you'd say. You're in a store atmosphere. You're not out in the middle of the mall. And that was just evolving. And that's where we were going to shift to. That was kind of our shift in progress, was we were going to start shifting into these bigger stores, have 10 or 15 salespeople in there on shifts, and really start going after that. And that's when everything blew up, and it was time to start all over again into something else.
So you went from selling phones to then essentially selling mortgages, right? You're selling
right into it.
Yeah, the ability for people to own a home. What was it like being a mortgage broker during the '08 financial crisis? And did that shape the way that you real estate today?
Totally. Yes. So I was in it when it was really good. I think we started my cousin's business, well, my business and my cousin's, Pacific Sunset Enterprises. That was the name of it. So we started that. I want to say it was probably in '03, might even been latter part of '02 when we were doing really well with the cell phone business, and opened up one location in Temecula, Marietta. And then I really, like I said, I really liked I liked everything about it. I liked the numbers, the sales with people. I liked the fact that you could be out on a golf course with somebody earning their business, the realtor relations, all of that stuff. And so then I was fortunate to get in with a guy who had been in the mortgage industry, who's still he's been one of my biggest investors since like 2008. When the mortgage crisis crashed, he was the first one to believe in me in the flip industry. So he taught me the mortgage industry. When my cousin and I started, my cousin kind of had a completely different view of how to treat customers. And on a mortgage, you're charging a point and you're getting yield on the back end. And man, he was just really terrible with the way he did business and the mortgages that he would put people in only to behoove himself. And so we kind of went our own ways, and there was more to this story, and I could keep going on about that, but I kind of got screwed on that whole deal, and that was a blessing. So I met Werner, and Werner kind of taught me what he'd known since the early 80s. And he was brilliant in mortgages. I think today he still does some mortgages for some of his high-end clientele and stuff. But he kind of taught me everything he knew. I was working in North San Diego County with him in his office. Within a year, I was just putting up big numbers. I had a really good network of people at Bank of America and was fortunate to get in with Bank of America's mortgage branch. And a guy named Brad Smith gave me the opportunity to come in and talk to them. They a paper lending only. And I got into their little mortgage division and took over doing anything that they couldn't fund on their A paper that went to subprime. I would take over from there. They'd literally just hand me a file that was ready to roll. They'd refer the client to me, refer me to the client, and it just went gangbusters from there. Started doing really well. Opened an office up in Riverside for myself. Started that brokerage in maybe 2005 or so, and brought in 5 or 6 other guys that I trained. And then we started doing nationwide mortgages along with our other local mortgage stuff, where I was providing leads to the whole office. We were doing mailers by the thousands. There's a company called You Build It that was a nationwide construction company, where basically you go buy the piece of land and you're looking for contractors, and they come in and say, hey, we'll contract for you, but you're going to do all the legwork. So we're going to give you all the generals to call. We give you basically a program. There's companies like that regionally throughout the US still to this day. But I was doing all the construction loans for them. So we got just really heavily into construction loans for a couple of years up until the crash. And the nationwide deal, we were just doing refis that were just as fast as you get them in and get them out. Anything that we called it dialing for dollars. I had guys just on the phones all day long grinding, and built that to a really, really great company. And I was doing some real estate transactions throughout that whole period. If somebody needed one, or somebody was buying a new home, or it was a friend or family member, I would list them. Had Werner teach me all about the real estate deal for about a year. We'd go out on listing appointments together and stuff. So we were kind of doing a little bit of everything. And in that time, that's what kind of turned me on into the mobile home deal. During that time, I had a buddy who owned a mobile home dealership, and they were doing chattel loans because you could not get loans on mobile homes that were in parks, that were not on a permanent foundation, that were tied or affixed to the land. So he was doing these chattel loans, and we met in the desert at all places and kind of knew a few of the same people and had the same things in common. And he liked what I did. And so we met, and he said, man, I do this thing. I call it the dog and pony show. And that's what he said. I do the dog and pony show. And we get all these people together at the Marriott, and we rent this room, and we convert 401ks for these folks into self-directed IRAs. And then we use their self-directed IRAs to lend to these mobile home park people, these people who own these mobiles that need funds or need to refi. And we give them high interest rate loans for a certain amount of time, 2 to 5 years or whatever they need. And it's out of people's retirement trusts. And I need a guy like you to start raising capital and get in front of these people. So I started doing that on the side while I had my mortgage company. I'd go a couple nights a week or one night a week. He'd throw this big thing together and have 20, 30, 40 people in there. I'd talk up in front of the 30, 40 people, tell them about how good the returns were, what they could do with their money, how they put it into a self-directed IRA. We had a custodian there from a self-directed IRA company, and they'd speak to the people, get all their information afterwards, and then we'd lend the money that they were putting in on these private note deals for these park owned, or basically tenant owned homes in a park. And it got me really thinking about these mobile home parks and all that way back when. And then 2007, it was like about mid 2007, I got to tell you, I knew what was going on with the mortgage industry, and I knew people that were doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And there was so much fraud going on, especially in Southern California, that the writing was on the wall. So I tapered back on the subprime stuff, went heavy into new construction builds and doing the mortgages for construction loans, refis for construction loans, anything that was more paper based, because I kind of had a feeling that subprime stuff was really going to hammer people. And I was pretty young, so I had never been through crash like this in the real estate market. So I was hearing about it from Werner because he had been through late 80s and then the 90s, savings and loan crisis he had been through. So he was keeping me on the ground saying, hey, this isn't going to last forever. You always got to be ready for the next thing, and so on and so forth. And then I think subprime ended late 07. They really tightened up, where a lot of the subprime lenders, the newer ones that were holding a ton of paper themselves that couldn't get rid of it on the secondary markets, they started folding. And then as we went into New Year's in 08, it just kept getting worse. And then I think it was right around in March, or might have been like March 15th or March 17th, right around there. Same thing happened in my cell phone. It's my cell phone business. We started getting emails that morning that they were shutting down loan lock desks. And by the end of the day, AJ, it was like a fire lit in the mortgage industry. And by the next day, within 24 hours, there was absolutely not one single loan that you had in your pipeline that you had started that was being funded. It was gone.
Wow.
It was like a tidal wave came in and there was nothing left. And so that was a overnight unbelievable experience. I didn't think it would last as long as it even did. I mean, I knew it was going to last for a long time, but I didn't think that it would America was almost lost to it, right? I mean, if they didn't do the bailout, who knows where the financial markets would have been or would have gone. But the country was on its way to collapse, and there was nothing there. And I thought it would turn around a little bit quicker and there would be some mortgage loans. So I had saved enough money to keep going, and I kept the office going. I had 2 processors, my own business for me, and then I had 2 other processors for the office. And I didn't want to just lay everybody off and just let everybody go. So I hung in there longer than I should have and went through the next 12 months. And man, it was a very terrible time in real estate. And so that's where the next business rolled off into.
And before going into mobile home parks, I want to touch on that, of course, but you went from being a mortgage broker to flipping houses. Can you talk to me about that transition? First, how many houses did you flip in total? And second, were you doing that as a team? Was it a solo operation? Walk me through that.
No, yeah. So 2009, it was about 12 months later, and my business partner that I've had for years, and we're still like, he's like my little brother. I had taught him the mortgage industry from ground, and he hung in there with me at the office, and kind of everything that I would say, he really kind of just looked up to me as his mentor. And he's like, man, whatever you think, I'm here for you. And he'd show up every day at the mortgage office. We didn't have anything to do. So we're literally like just online trying to figure out what the next step is, what's going on in the market, calling everybody I knew, trying to find out what was next, how it's happening. And we had a good friend of ours that had done some REO business in the 90s. And then Werner, my mentor, had told me, man, maybe you ought to start looking into just doing REOs or maybe rehabs for these houses, because there's going to be tens of thousands of them on the market. So Mike and I started diving into that, and he was really pretty good on the computer and doing research and stuff. So he was doing the research end of it. I was trying to figure out, like, at the time there was asset management companies, but nobody had done any asset management for years, right? We're in 2008, 9, and nothing had happened like this since 93. So nobody was really geared up for it. So we started actually going to a couple of little seminars that were offered online. And man, we started just diving into Google. I got to tell you, we were using Google and reading little books and anything we could do about learning the REO class and learning how it was. And again, man, I was just like backed into a corner and didn't want to give up. And so I told Mike, I'm going to have to shut this whole office down. Like, I keep doing this. I've got X amount of money left, and now we've got 2 kids, and I've got to stop the splurge. Like, I had to just, and Mike says, you know what? I've got X amount of money in the bank. What would you think about you and I partnering up on a real estate company doing REOs, and I'll pay right now 12 months of the office rent. We'll keep it open. You lead the way, but I'll pay the bills for the next 12 months, and let's do this. So I thought about that for a day and thought, let's do it. And accredited home lenders, I was like awarded in 2006 and 7. I was the number 1 selling gear for accredited home lenders, which was a big subprime lender down at the time. They were nationwide, but San Diego's where they started. So I kind of got in their home team group and was doing really well for them for a couple of years. And I made a few phone calls and ended up talking to somebody who was in asset management over there. And so Mike and I sat at the office for a week or 2, and we literally made 4 the little postcard deals. And we'd put almost like we were just quizzing each other like you would do in 6th grade on flashcards. What's cash for keys? What's this? What's that? And we'd sit there and do flashcards with each other for a week, 2 weeks. And so I had an opportunity to go down to Rancho Bernardo and go in and meet the asset manager for accredited home lenders. So I there's this great little place down there that does pizzas and ribs and all this stuff. So I stopped by there on my way in. I was nervous, shaking nervous when I pulled in the parking lot. I don't know a damn thing really about anything about REOs. Mike, during this time, had built a website for us, hiddenvalleysells.com, and it had all of our stuff on how we did REOs and how many years we had been in it and this and that and the other. So we kind of tapered that down a little bit to make it look like it was somewhat believable. And I went into that office and had lunch with everybody and knew my terminologies pretty well. And thankfully, none of them had ever been in the REO class either, because Accredited was a subprime lender and they were new to the game in 2001, right around there. So, man, a couple hours later, I left with like 18 listings for REO properties, and they weren't listings, they were pre-listings. So they didn't even know really how to handle anything. They were building their division for Accredited for all the paper that they had gotten stuck with that didn't go to our secondary markets. So they got in contact. I can't even remember if they had their attorney or me call their attorney or their attorney call me. And it was like a ground up build up. And so the attorney would send me documentation and say, hey, read this over, get this down. Here's these 4 homes right now. You need to go post these notices on. And I started from there, and man, we just kept grinding. And during that time, I mean, we got to a point to where we probably at our best had 60, 70, 80 listings at a time through Accredited. And then I got in with Countrywide, and I got in with another company that was just they were kind of a hub. They were an asset management company that would take overflow properties from all these different banks. And so we had 3 different networks we were working for, but we got to learn everything. I mean, I was doing deeds in lieu of foreclosure. I was doing trash outs, kick outs. We started doing the rehab work for the banks, basically hiring, you'd go out, get 3 bids, do this, do that, go through the process of it, pay contractors, they'd reimburse us, we'd list the homes. And during that time, I was like, man, we're making decent money in these. I mean, we were making a living doing all these REOs, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about a time when some of these houses in Southern California were selling for 50, 60, 70,000 in Southern California. Our houses in San Diego, Oceanside, places like that are selling for 150, 160. I mean, it was unbelievable. So our commissions were $3,500, $4,000, right? I mean, it wasn't something that you were gonna. And don't get me wrong, again, we were doing quite a few of them. So we were able to make a good living, keep the office going, hire people, and get it going well. But I noticed that the checks we were writing to all these contractors far outweighed our checks dealing with all the work going into it. And I had construction experience. Mike had kind of a lot of construction experience. He had built some houses with a guy that we knew. And so I told Mike, go get your contractor's license and landscape, because I was really good at landscaping and doing stuff like that for myself. And so I said, get a landscaping contractor's license. That'll get us, for right now, it's the easiest thing to pass. You'll have it in a heartbeat. You focus on that. I'll keep the REO things going, but we're going to start rehabbing houses. So probably took a few months. We started an LLC and then got in with, we were bidding work for the 3 companies that we had and doing, we started with just the trash outs and simple landscape maintenance, that stuff. And then started building up. And my brother-in-law had ran Heritage Pacific Homes, and they were a big, pretty outfit. They had 13 or 14 subdivisions going when the market crashed. He had been with them for years, out of work in a day. So we brought Sean on, my brother-in-law, and he started the construction crew and was running that. And then we ended up getting trucks and dump trailers, and man, we were doing a bunch of different trash outs and construction and reconstruction, and I mean, doing anything that they could ask at the banks. And that was way more lucrative than the listings. But then we started, I knew a ton of people in Southern California, either real estate agents, mortgage brokers, whatever, through those years. And one of my great buddies, Nick, that I still talk to today, started a company called Gateway REO. And he got in with Chase when it was JP Morgan, WAMU at the time. They formed up. Chase got a hold of him, and he made millions doing it. He really crushed it during the REO, maybe for 3 or 4 years. But he was calling me with anything that he got in. That we did brokers' price opinions. That was the first thing that they'd send over, was a BPO, and they'd pay us like $50, and we'd go out and take a few pictures outside of the house. We didn't go in them. We'd just do a broker's price opinion, send it over to the bank and say, here's what it's worth. Well, Nick would start sending me the BPOs that were under 50,000. And that's how the flipping started. So we had these REOs going, and Nick started sending me these low price point houses in Riverside County and saying, hey, you want to buy one of these? And so we started buying some of those, and I'd give Nick my low price stuff that would come in for him, because you couldn't do anything that was under you couldn't buy anything, no arm's length transactions. It was like pretty frowned upon. So we started feeding him some of our BPO stuff that was coming in low. He started feeding us, and man, it was like pulling teeth to get 50 grand out of somebody at the time. I mean, everybody was scared to death. There wasn't hardly any lending. A paper had come back. Some of the banks had come back a little bit, but you had to be perfect to get a mortgage loan.
That was something that I was wondering. So you guys started with the listings, it sounds like, with some of these asset management firms, and then you moved to the trash outs and you did some of the construction, and then you started flipping. I was wondering, with it being just after the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, who was buying these houses that you were flipping?
So at that time, it was, I would say, mostly first-time home buyers. To tell you the truth, it was, we'd buy a house for 50,000, put 20 into it. At the time, 20 was a huge rehab, believe it or not. So we'd be in at 70, we'd sell it for 100. And it was usually either a lot of military family that was willing to drive 45, 50 minutes, an hour, 20 minutes, but at least they could own a home. And then investors. So people with cash, especially in Southern California. I mean, there was guys that were holding and waiting, and now the opportunity came. And even then, I mean, you could rent back then one of these little 3-bedroom, 2 baths in Riverside for $1,100-1,200 a month, and they were buying them for sub 100,000 numbers. So they were coming out in force. And then, as you know how things are, he starts talking to him, she starts talking to her, they're at work talking, whatever the case may be. And now you've got people again pulling money from 401ks and even withdrawing money from 401ks, taking the tax hit, but being able to buy a piece of real estate where they know it's going to come back. And but it wasn't like, there was no such thing as putting a property on the market in 2010 and having it sell in a day.
Right.
You were getting 30, 60, 90-day listings that were then, we'd get an offer for 80,000 on something we listed at 100. So it was tough to sell them unless you had something coastal or something, and then they'd sell easier, but they were still just a terrible time to be in that marketplace unless you got a really good deal.
And would you guys take these really good deals sometimes and burr them? Would you get a refinance on these? Would you even have the capability to do that with some of these banks, just like pulling out of the market? How did you navigate that?
So Mike and I ended up buying 29 doors ourselves in about 2 years to keep, all rentals. And it was anything at 35,000 and under, to tell you the truth. We never paid one dime over 35 grand on 29 places. We bought a 4-plex for 100 and something thousand from my buddy Nick. That was the most expensive purchase we ever did. And so that made it like 33 doors. But yeah, so what we would do is we'd buy them for 35,000. I mean, even some of them, we bought some for 20,000 and they needed replumbed. And I mean, they were destroyed, but we'd put our rehab crews in there when they'd have free days and keep them busy to where they were always busy, and rehabbed them and rented them out ourselves. So we did that, but we didn't do there was no such thing as burr. I mean, we couldn't get mortgage loans. So what we were going to friends and family, borrowing money on a private note. So we'd get a private, just, hey, give us 50 grand. First trust deed on the house. We'll pay you 10% interest only. Give us a 3-year note. We'll pay you 2 points to originate it. Whatever we needed to do to get the money, we would do. And that started to gravitate. And then a couple of my buddies that owned some pretty large businesses and had commercial property really helped us really take advantage of that time. And had I been a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and known more, I would have bought 300 of these things. It was just, we couldn't find the cash fast enough. So yeah,
do you remember one flip that taught you the most, either because it was a painful mistake or it was a super big win?
Our first property that we actually bought at trustee sale. Yep. So we started going to the courthouse steps and learning that process. And Werner, my mentor in the lending business and then taught me real estate, he knew what we were doing, really believed in me, still does to this day. And we had a house we were watching in LA, and it was just a little 3-2. But at the height of the market, I want to say it sold for like, in 06, maybe it sold for 715,000 or something. And we were tracking it to trustee sale and thought we could probably get it in the 125 to 175 range. And at trustee sale, it's a different monster. You come with cashier's checks, all in different amounts for whatever you're willing to spend, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 increments. And you're signing over cashier's checks to the trustee right then and there and walking out with a home. But it's a very scary process when you're not used to it. Nobody really had done it in years, so there wasn't a whole lot of experience with it. And he trusted in us, and we to auction that day. We ended up getting that house, I want to say, for 145, right in there, 145, 150-ish. We had it rehabbed. We sent both of our crews out there. Thing rehabbed in like 2.5 or 3 weeks. They just knocked it out of the park. And we put it on the market. And because of where it was at in LA, I mean, it was location. And we immediately sold that thing for, man, I want to say it was like it was either high 290s or right at 300,000. And we were in it like 165, 175-ish. And so it wasn't our biggest gain by any means, but at that time, to turn it that quick and to learn what we learned at trustee sale and have the faith in ourselves to actually fire and put those cashier's checks down and go out and deal with the house. And I mean, it was a scary deal, the first one. And man, that really it gained traction immediately. It was just like, it lit a fire under us like you had never seen. I was 7 days a week after that. It was just all I wanted to do was buy properties at trustee sale.
Yeah. Do you find any of those opportunities anymore, either REOs or trustee sales these days, or do you think those times are past?
I think the REOs could come back. I don't know if they'll ever come back. I mean, there are REOs today. There's asset management companies for all of these banks. And there are people that have been doing REOs, let's say, for 20 years that still have their accounts set up with them. And they do anything that gets foreclosed upon for those banks. But I mean, it's like anywhere you look. I used a program, and you may be familiar with it. It was called Foreclosure Radar. And it's a monthly subscription deal. And you can look up anything that's got an NOD filed on it. And from that point on, you track it and it's in your portfolio and you watch it and see what's going on with it. But there's hardly any properties that go through trustee sale on a basis, where back then it was, I mean, there'd be 30, 35 of us buyers out there sitting all day long, half the day, until all the properties went through trustee sale. And then BlackRock ended up annihilating the trustee sales and had 2 buyers at every one. And that's what happened with trustee sales. And that's how they bought thousands of rentals through trustee sale. And so that kind of dried up too. But during that time, I mean, from 2010, when we were flipping some of the little ones, we probably did, I don't know what we did in 2010, because that was our first year, maybe 15 or 20 flips total. And then 2011 is when we really geared up at trustee sale. And I want to say it was 2012, and we did like 112 flips in a year. And we were buying a house a day at trustee sale was our goal. And some days we'd buy 3, and some days we'd buy none. but we were buying short. We had people in the office that all they did was short sales. So we'd have them buying short sales. And if there was enough margin, we'd flip those. Otherwise we'd flip them to somebody as a rental. I mean, we went all in on flips.
All in, how many flips, short sales would you say that you did total across your career?
A couple hundred for sure. Because the first real year of it, 2010, was pretty light. I want to say 2011, like for 6 months, we probably did 20, 25. 2011 is kind of when we started buying at trustee sale and things ramped up. And then the second half of 11 and 12, that's when trustee sale was wide open. And I went through Werner, that guy who taught me everything, my mentor. And when he saw what was going on, he wanted part of it. And so he's like, man, it's time for us to start doing lunches and you're going to start raising capital. And so I had got like 4.8 to 5 million bucks between some private guys at that point, which was some good buying power at trustee sale. Because you got to remember, you're getting your hands on the house that day. So unless somebody's squatting in there and you got to deal with them, you're immediately doing the trash out the very next day, sending your crews out, trash it out, get anything you need stripped out of it and ready for the rehab, like immediately. And then you market it while you're doing the rehab and just don't allow any inside viewings. And so that's kind of how we gravitated into that. And it just started, and it was like more, we learned as we went. It wasn't something that was taught to us, or, I mean, we went through some bruises, believe me. I mean, we bought houses that there was nothing left inside of them, and we might make 10 or 15,000 bucks by the end of the day by having to, I mean, I could just give you story upon story. We saw everything and anything, including people flooding the houses when they're leaving. We had one house that was 4,000 square foot that I'll never forget this one. They had a big, huge jacuzzi tub upstairs in the master, and they put like silicone and a bunch of different glues and hardeners in the drain. And when they left the house, they turned on hot and cold water and walked.
Wow.
And we had done kind of like, you need to be out of here. We're not going to evict you. And we were super, super nice about it. And we came back on Monday and the whole house, I mean, all the ceilings had collapsed. It was absolutely a nightmare. So that's the kind of stuff we were dealing with and learning and navigating. And squatters were huge back then. So we were really got to be veterans at dealing with squatters and figuring out how to get them out there if they didn't have a lease or if they had a forged lease or whatever the case may be. But it was a wild time in real estate. But a guy could make a ton of money during that time.
So all 300 of these flips were in California?
All of them, yep.
Was it pretty difficult to evict people who were squatting in the house at that point, or has that changed since then?
Changed since then. At that time, it was depending on neighborhoods, counties, stuff like that. It depended on, like, California is massive, right? So depending on how strong the sheriff's department was at that time was kind of really relevant in how fast you could get somebody out of that house. So if you could get a sheriff to come out and he was on your side and he could basically make it look like he was going to arrest the people, you got rid of them pretty quickly. But man, that only lasts for maybe a year. And then it was like all the laws were being changed. Dodd-Frank came out with all the new mortgage stuff. Like there was this whole shift. And along with that shift came the shift at evictions, cash for keys, how you handled the evictions, the process of it. The courts were backed up like crazy because there was squatters everywhere. So it started being something you really had to have like a good grip on before you went and bought these houses. So we had drivers
So
at that point that went to the trustee sale homes we were going to buy that day and make sure that nobody was in the house. And I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. It was just a constant.
So with the multiple hundred houses that you flipped, what are some of the biggest lessons that you would share with folks who are flipping today, whether it be houses or apartment complexes, maybe from a process standpoint, an efficiency standpoint, or just an overall finance standpoint? How would you advise folks who are flipping today and trying to be efficient and effective in their operations?
For me, I think I look at everything on a marginal base. So I hear a lot of stuff right now where somebody will buy a $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 home, and there's a $40,000 margin, and they've got to do the rehab. And with the inflationary problems we've had in the last 4 years, you go to buy something that you thought was $100 and it's 112, and all of a sudden everything's running over. And now your margins have just gone to nothing on that house. And you're tying up $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to make a $20,000 payday. And so you have to really look at the investors who you're borrowing the money from, or the bank, or whoever it is. Like, there's risk in everything, and you're exposing yourself to a lot more risk in the climate that we're in right now. And that's what kind of happened when we stopped doing what we were doing in 2013, 14. And we never really stopped, but we really slowed down to where it got back to just Mike and I. And we had all of our crews were gone. So we used a sub for painting, a sub for basically subbed everything out to where we could control costs a little bit, but we damn sure we're checking our margins on everything that we purchase to flip and making sure that the margins are there. So that my biggest thing is flow, margin, risk. And the flow's got to be there. When I mean flow, I mean like you've got to be in with these subcontractors in a way to where they kind of put you in front of the other 15 people that they're doing work for. Because if you buy a flip today, we're in a declining market no matter which way you look at it. And maybe we're in a stagnant market. But if I'm rolling the dice or betting on something right now, if I've got my value at 250 today, if it's 60 days from now, it's not going to be 251 or 252. My bet is it's going to be 245, because we're in that market to where people are buying, but they're only buying, or the way I look at it is they're only buying if it behooves them and they can get a deal, or there's great value in it for them, or they feel like there's great value in it. And so being really careful on what you're buying and doing it promptly and just getting that rehab knocked out, whether it's 7 days a week you're having to be on it. But time is of the essence. The less time you have your investors' money out there and the less exposed they are, the more they're going to be willing to put the money back into your machine. So that's it. And man, just being super cautious right now too. I mean, things turn in the real estate market in a day. They don't seem like it, but when it happens, it's like a light switch. And so you don't want to be stuck. I'm stuck in some stuff right now that I never thought that I would be stuck in the beginning of this year. I've never seen it kind of shape up the way that it's shaped up right now. And so be really realistic on your numbers, overestimate your budget on your expenses, on your flip, on your carrying costs, on your labor. And I'm not saying go crazy with it, but be cautious with it and go a little bit over. And if you think that high number is 500,000, think 475. And then if your number works, then move forward with it. Otherwise, I say pass. I'm real cautious about that stuff. And the last thing I want to do is put somebody who's helped me get to where I'm at, an investor, put them in harm's way. It's the absolute worst thing that could ever happen in your career.
So flipping over to something that you are the only person that I personally know who's invented a product. Would you tell us about it? What is it and how did the idea come about?
So 2014 rolled around. It was like into 2013. My partner still wanted to just keep grinding on flipping. And man, I was pretty burnt out because I had gone cell phones, balls to the walls, gotten it built up the way I wanted, collapse. Done the mortgage industry, got to a place to where I thought, man, this is just absolutely unbelievable. My business is thriving, collapsed. REOs, saw that sink. Trustee sale, flipping like crazy, doing absolutely insane numbers. And when you are doing those insane numbers, you're paying out insane numbers because you want things done right now. And so we were doing very, very well, but not making millions like all these TV shows tell you they do. I mean, the margins just go down. They don't go up. So we built this whole monster up and it crashed. I mean, it didn't crash, but to me, it was a crash. It was 7 days a week for 3 years building this thing. And now we're going to do 15 flips this year. And like the excitement left me. It's like I was just ready to step aside for a little bit. And I had money in the bank and we had done really well. So I decided I was going to take a year and I was going to keep doing stuff. I mean, I was buying a short sale here and there, doing whatever, just keeping busy with real estate. But I just wanted something different. And at that time, so in like 2011-ish, we had 3 kids at that time. My baby girl was born. And my father-in-law was a general contractor for years and he was out of work. And we opened a feed store for horses, like selling hay and feed and all this stuff. And my wife was running that with my father-in-law. And so during that time, we met a ton of people in the feed industry. And so that was kind of a side business. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something that the market wasn't going to control so much. And I always wanted to invent something. And I just really started thinking about what else could I do besides real estate that I'll enjoy. And at the time, we're horse people. And we have my son's pro rodeo guy. Both my kids won a national championship in college and is now PRCA rodeo. And my youngest son, who's 20, is on a full ride scholarship to Weatherford here in Texas on a rodeo scholarship. And my daughter is into rodeo. I team rope and have for 15 years or something. So we were in the horse industry. We owned a feed store. Washing horses is absolutely a nightmare. It's one of the worst things that you can do associated with a horse. Like, they're super large animals. You're spraying them down with water. You're trying to shampoo them and get them clean. They're shaking and throwing just nastiness all over you from head to toe. You're soaking wet. Your shoes, your socks, your pants, everything's wrecked when you're done washing one. It's an hour-long process. And then you turn them around, put them in their pen, and 5 minutes later, they're rolling in just mud and crap all over them again. So it's a problem, right? So I start thinking, man, there's got to be a better way to wash a freaking horse than this. So at that time, we live on 5 acres. I've got a shop down below at my house. I put together this piece of PVC pipe about 2 foot long, drill a bunch of little holes in it, hook it up to a ball valve. And I'm like, man, this keeps this thing away from you. And you can wash the horse with it. And at least you're 2 foot from the horse and not every bit of the water's coming on you. And we kind of screwed around with it and just kept playing with it and started washing our horses with it. My son at the time, my oldest son was, I don't know what he was, 10, 11, somewhere in there. And so I'm letting him use the thing. And he's like, man, this thing works so good. And so then we started dialing in the holes a little bit more and changing the hole size and getting pressures up. And man, I'm telling you, it was like just, you could take this wand and just cut the dirt and the urine and all the stuff that hides beneath their fur. And there's water coming down the sides of them and stuff, but it's not all over you. And I'm like, man, I wonder if something like this is on the market. So I start doing some research, and sure enough, I found a couple of ones that might have been 5 years old or 10 years old and had been on the market, never really marketed, but had been there. And I'm like, man, there's just absolutely nothing like this, but I'd have to make it look like something that we could box up and make a product out of, and have something that looks like it's a horse product, not a piece of pipe. So my buddy owned a fabrication shop down in Temecula, about 15 minutes from my house, and does a bunch of metal fabrication stuff, aluminum, all kinds of stuff. So I took him this deal and I said, Brandon, can you make this in some thin, super lightweight aluminum that's bendable, that won't just break if you're throwing it around, because horses were not the ease on our equipment, but make it with this size hole. And I can't remember how many I came up with at first, but I told him kind of what to do as a prototype. So he made it out of this thin wall aluminum. I found a handle on like eBay or whatever, bought a handle. We made some mechanism that screwed on and made it whole. And I don't even remember how we did that, whether it was epoxy to make it not leak or whatever. But I got the prototype back. We put this handle on it, shower handle, whatever it was. And it was absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, I took it around, showed it to all my buddies, let people use it, had Brandon make me like 5 more wand tips, put them together, started letting people at our feed store take them home, getting input. They started inputting. I'm like, I think I can invent this thing and like make something out of it. So at that point, I called an attorney who's a family member of ours, said, have you ever done any patents? Oh, yeah, I've done a ton of stuff. So started looking into a patent. And then another buddy of mine that I knew through real estate owned a caster business, which are the caster wheels that go on like the bottom of shopping carts, the shopping cart wheels. He owns a company that does like Lowe's, Home Depot, sells millions of caster wheels. And those are all out of like pot metal, plastic, rubber wheels. So I went down and met with Gary, and I'm like, hey man, where do you get this stuff made at? And he's like, we literally, my grandfather started the company, but my dad owns warehouse in Shanghai, China. And we do all our own plastic and all our own metal and blah, blah, blah. So I show him this wand, and he's like, oh yeah, this will be easy. Can I take this? Can I send it over there? I'm like, sure. So a couple of weeks later, he calls me and says, hey, the guy at our factory wants to talk on the phone, but it's really hard to get him because they're on opposite hours, but I'd like you to be available because he's got questions. And sure enough, man, like 3 weeks later, in the mail comes this freaking wand that's all powder coated in a color, all done on machine, cool little handle. It's like 10 times better than what I thought, with pricing on it. So I'm like, oh man, I can do this. So at that point, I geared up and we built a website. I started talking to a bunch of people in distribution because they came into our feed store all the time to sell us stuff. So I'm like, hey, how do I take this thing to market? What do I do? And they're like, start going to all the trade shows. It's a great idea. So we made packaging, got them made in bulk, ordered, like my first order was 1,000 pieces, got those sent over in one of Gary's containers with his casters. And I started hitting the road, man. I went to every feed store there was in Southern California. I did a road trip from California into Arizona, up into Nevada, into Utah. And I signed I can't remember how many. I sold like 4 or 5 pallets of 144 wands just on that one trip. And like within 2 weeks, these people are calling me back, says, I went 12 of them. I went through the whole box of 12. I went through 24 of them. Send me more. And at that point, I started finding all the trade shows, and I literally just went on a trade show spree and went to every equine trade show. The Rolex was a big hunter jumper deal. I got booths at every one of the trade shows. I made a video, just did the whole 9 yards, and got it into nationwide distribution with one of the biggest distributors, and their Weaver Leathers, the name of them, and Professional Choice. And man, I had it everywhere. I mean, it was just taking off like crazy. And I won Best of Show that year at NFR. I had 4 booths out at Vegas at the National Finals of Rodeo at all their trade show deals, and it just took off. And then we just kept growing it. And then, of course, with everything else, all the big box chain stores have taken over all the small and paw. So then we went to Amazon, and we still sell it today at Amazon. I mean, it's just something that basically if you know a horse owner and you say, hey, have you ever used one of those wands to wash a horse with, the Easy Wash wand? Like 9 out of 10 are going to say, oh yeah, I have one. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
So with the patent, does that protect you from other people trying to like copy the design, or are there copycat Easy Wash wands that are out there right now?
There has been a couple of copycats. You can't do anything about it. I got a design patent. It's the only thing you can do. So all they have to do is change 1 or 2 things on the wand. Your design patent shot. So I learned a lot about patents through that 2 years. Like, there's just, unless you really have something, software or, a part for something that you can actually not just get a design patent on, you're covered. But with anything like this, a brush is a wand. There's just no way to put a foolproof patent on something like that. So it was more for me to say that it was patented on the packaging and to get the company off the ground, to be the first one in all of these stores, the first one that people thought of. And that's what's happened, right? A couple other people have chased me and they haven't been able to make it because we were the first to market. We were the first to the shows. We were the first. So everybody just knows the product. And so that's what made the product, was me being first out there. And I think that's unique to this industry and this brand. I think it would be different in there's only so many, I can't remember what the numbers were, but demographically 7 million horse owners in the USA or whatever. How many of them use their horse and wash their horse? Maybe 1.5 million of them. The demographics were too small. And still, even when I launched, they were too small. I just didn't know that because I didn't have the experience in it. And I would have done it anyway because I wanted to do something different. But I mean, if a guy went on the road and did what I did for the first year and he did it all the time, he'd make a great living. It's just, you got to be away from your family all the time and on the road and dealing with a product that you're just out there selling. And it was just time for me to get back into real estate. The whole time I'm on the road, I'm thinking, man, I've got this flip back here that I'm losing money on because I'm out here on the road. And just all these things. I'm just built. I think that I just really like real estate. And so that's what I always go back into. It seems like no matter what I do, no matter what I try, I always end up resorting to real estate at the end of the day,
And I want to talk about the mobile home parks. We'll talk about that next. But my last question regarding the wand, what would you tell someone who's thinking about turning a DIY invention into a real business, or just inventing something generally? What would you tell that person?
Take the leap of faith. You're only going to find out how good your product is, how good sales are, and how big you can push it by doing it. It doesn't matter what you plug into the computer and what this says and what chat may say about it or whatever. I mean, there's so many ways to try to find information now, but and then 100%, if you're going to make it your living and it's not a hobby that turns into something as a side gig, then make sure that demographics support it. Make sure that if you have a product that you're going to bring to market, the margins have to be incredible, especially in today's climate, the way it is today and what things cost. Your margins have to be through the roof, because by the time especially now with tariffs, I mean, my gosh, you're basically anything you're ever going to bring to market comes from overseas somewhere, India, China. I mean, not here in the US. And if it's built in the US, you're not going to compete with the other products that you're trying to compete with unless it's something that is a special product. But if you have something that millions of people already use, millions, and there's a way to get it into 10% of those people's hands all the time, then you've got a pretty good shot at breaking through. And if you're diligent about it and you're a good salesperson and you're a hustler, you're going to make it work. And so I look at it like, first off, my product at the time was $32 or $34 retail, right? Well, how much are you really going to make on each one by the time you produce it, ship it, market it, go out and sell it, pay for booths, pay for this, pay for that? What's your margin? So find something that's got a big enough margin to where when you're selling one of them, you're doing pretty good. And if you sell millions of them, you're not worried about anything anymore because you've spent the time on building a brand and creating an invention that can retire you. I think that's just for sure. You've got to have the millions and millions of people that need to use your product. And don't worry about, like, if you have something that's intellectually different than, like, you're creating something that nobody else has created, then you want to spend tens of thousands on that patent. You want to have the best patent attorney patenting every part that goes into that thing so they can't take a copy of it or remake it. And you want to spend and really focus on that patent. If it's not something like that, then get your patent while you're going out there and you're just hustling, because that's where it comes from. It comes from the hustle.
Right. It sounds like your biggest advantage was the first mover advantage. So you were first to market. You created a brand name that then built trust with the audience, with the target demographic. And because you were in so many stores, in so many people's hands already, it becomes much harder for people to, when they're looking for a wand now, go to someone else when the reviews aren't there or just the recognition, the brand recognition isn't there.
For sure.
So
yep.
Something that millions of people use every day, actually everyone uses all the time, is housing. And you've owned multiple mobile home parks solo or with very few partners. What led you to do all of it yourself first?
Luck. Really. I mean, it was just stumbled upon the right thing. So I've been in mobile homes since 2014 when I decided to jump back into real estate again. I didn't want to do normal housing. I wanted something that was a little bit unique that I wouldn't get taken out of. And so I started buying little lots and putting manufactured homes, brand new manufactured homes on them, setting them up, doing landscape, driveways, the whole bit, but offering them at $250,000, $300,000 in Southern California. And so they were flying off the shelf, and I had a really good thing going, got a great crew, did a lot of stuff in-house. It got to the point I was pulling all the permits. So I was basically finding properties, and I lived at the county, which I hated, but you had to do. And it was a lot easier to navigate back then. But I got into the mobile home thing, had a couple of buddies that were in mobile homes already. Like I told you, I knew people in the mobile home industry doing the chattel property. I knew a great friend of ours that lived in Canyon Lake with us for a while, that his dad owned mobile home parks in like Orange County. He now owned, all he did was golf all the time. Just a great guy, really funny guy, would share with me all the time about how great mobile home parks were. And so when we moved out of California, I was building places in Arizona, manufactured homes on 5, 10, 15, 20 acre parcels. It was really easy to navigate the permitting process until COVID out there. So I was doing Southern California and Arizona. And when everything happened with COVID, there was the big clamp down on California. I mean, nobody in the country, maybe New York had some of the same things, but I mean, we were locked down in California. In Southern California, man, there was certain times where once a week we could go to the grocery store. Like, you couldn't be caught out driving. And if you were caught out driving and you weren't going to where you were, which doctor's appointments, you had to be dying in Southern California to see a doctor. You had your one time a week where you could go to Costco or whatever with another. Costco was limited to 100 people in the entire Costco in Southern California. So you'd have your time slot. And if you were caught driving during the daytime, not going to one of those things and didn't have proof of it, they could arrest you for being outside of your home. So when I say lockdown, I mean lockdown. Now, this is a place that I've seen from when I was a little kid, Southern California, go from being, and I was San Diego County, tiny San Diego County in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? and blew up. So we already didn't like everything that had happened. And then COVID hit. My son was rodeoing. He was on a scholarship here in Texas. I had bought a manufactured home on 5 acres here in Texas, and for him to live in, because housing's so expensive here, horse person. And so I was visiting, we were rehabbing that house for my son, and I was out here quite a bit. And we decided, just out of the blue, my wife said, our other kids want to move. Are you in? So we moved out to Texas, like literally 35 days later, put our house on the market in California, and I was building a place for us to live in Arizona. So we sold both, moved out here to Texas, and wanted to do, it's so much easier to navigate in Texas. So I had tons of projects still going in California and Arizona that I had to deal with, and everything was held up from COVID, and getting permits was taking up to 2 years, and it was a nightmare. And every time I had that I could have done, I mean, I had money to live off of, but investment money was tied up in all these projects I had. So I was kind of handcuffed here. But then I came across a piece of property on 15 acres that had a couple of mobile homes, one just trashed one, a nice big one. But the 15 acres was in a perfect location near the college, paved road, just a great spot. And I kind of thought, man, I think we could buy this thing, start putting mobile homes on it, build our own park, put horse facilities in, rent horse stalls, an arena, the whole bit to all these Western kids. And it'd be a good, so long story short, we ended up buying that. And that was my first park. And I built the thing from ground up. And we have 20 RV spaces that are pretty much full all the time now at $500 a month. We have a bunch of different houses, tiny home, a couple of 1-bedroom apartments, and we are landing 4 brand new manufactured homes here in the next 30 days or less, maybe even 2 weeks. And it's all planned and mapped now. At the end, we'll have, and this should be in the next couple of years, we'll have 70 units in there. So that'll be a big one. And then my wife and I solely bought another mobile home park in Granbury after this one. And then I have one partner in another park in Missouri, and it's just me and one partner. And now we're closing escrow on one in Indiana here in the next 2 weeks. And I have another one in East Texas, Texarkana, that we have to close by November 1st with a different partner. And then we have another one in escrow, an 80 space in escrow up in Missouri.
So what is your typical park profile? Is there a certain size or location or lot count or infrastructure that you're looking for?
I'm getting a little bit more picky now. Lot size, or how many lots are in them. I'd say sweet spot would be, I'll take one with 10, as long as it's 1,000 I don't want to do a park that brings in $40,000 a year. There's just not enough there to ever do anything with. So if it was a park with 10 units that rent for, and I'm one of those guys, I'm I do a lot of the stuff myself. I have all my own equipment. I do installs, I do underground water, power, septic, the whole bit. So if it's a park that's 10 that are $1,500 a month because they're all park owned, and I can get a good enough deal on it, still get the value base on a mix of tenant owned, park owned value wise, even though they're all park owned, then I'll take on the one we have in Granbury's all park owned, not a tenant owned home in there. I won't turn it into a tenant owned home place. I mean, we do $22,000 a month in gross on that park, and that's my wife and I's, and it's because it's all park owned homes. And if we were to go to the tenant owned model, we'd make $6,000 a month. And for me, I know expenses are higher and all that jazz that you hear everywhere, but my expenses aren't 40 or 50%. And they're worth dealing with. And the tenants are worth dealing with when the margins are higher. So I like those 10 space parks, but they got to be special. 20 is kind of a good little, that's a good, I like 20, but I want to have 20 with either 10 empty spaces or the ability to put in 10 or 20 more units. And really, I think like in the future, I want to be at that 30, 35 to 75 range. I think that's a great range. We can have some park owns to increase the gross on the property, but not too many of them to where it becomes just a complete nightmare. And you still have your tenant owns in there, and you can focus on the beauty of the park and how the park operates and bring up rents and give the people a great community to live in. And I think that's kind of where I don't want to get to the 100 and more yet, or maybe never, because it's a different monster and the money you're competing against is a different type of money. I'm not there yet, and I may change my mind and I'll look like a fool in 2 years because I'll be doing exactly what I'm saying I don't like doing, but I don't like the syndication model myself. I like to have a small group, 2, 3 people. I like to treat everybody as they're a partner. I want them to be a partner. I don't want to not relate to the people that are involved in my deals. I want their input. I want to learn from them, even if they don't know anything. I think there's a lot to learn from people who don't know. And so I like to share what's going on. Be in this deal with people who actually care about the deal. It's not just a numbers game for them where they're putting in 100,000 or 300,000 and they get their pin every month and they're happy. That's not what I'm into. And I think that's what it becomes when you get up into those 150 unit parks, and it's just not my thing. And I don't know, I'm not geared there yet, and I don't operate. That's just not something I see being me.
Do you think the smaller park, like the 20 to 40 park range with the park owned homes, do you think that model would be as attractive to you if you weren't an operator, if you were someone who like maybe you didn't know how to do the plumbing and the electrical and the septic? Is that something that you would still take on?
Not 30 and 40 at a time. No, definitely not. And I've been blessed over the years with all these different things that I've done that make it easier for me to navigate. My wife and I do all the property management. I've dealt with tenants from the crazy years of 2010 until present. Never not had rental properties. I'm not going to say I've seen it all with rentals, but I've seen a lot and seen what people can do to you and how they do to you and what they will do to you if you're not a stand-up person to your tenants. And so we kind of have a good guy, bad guy thing between me and my wife. She's real good. She's got a great heart. Heart's bigger than her body. She deals with tenants on a totally different level than I can deal with them on. And so she handles that portion of them. And then I'm real good with them until they're not being good people. And then I'm the bad guy and I get there real quick. And I've dealt with hundreds of evictions, literally hundreds of evictions, and lockouts and sheriff's lockouts and all of it. And so it kind of switches gears when my wife's getting taken advantage of. That goes to me. And then the rehabbing of them and what you need to do and what to ask for and look for with these tenants that are going to screw you on their way out, and what not to say to them to piss them off on the last 3 days that they're getting ready to move out, to where they're going to make a rash decision that hurts you financially. So there's so many little things that I've had to be through in the last 15 years that help me navigate those park owned homes. And then the other thing is I know mobile homes like pretty much inside and out. I mean, down to the studs. I mean, I've rehabbed them when we were doing Southern California. I'd buy old dilapidated ones and rehab and flip those while I was setting up the brand new one next door. I mean, I know them inside and out. I know the electrical. I know every part about them, the plumbing, we've repiped a dozen of them. I mean, it's all in PEX. And so it's knowing the homes to where if I get a call right now from Kirksville, Missouri, and they say, hey, we've got a problem in this home and this is what's going on and here's where the leak is, I can literally put my mind and say, okay, go inside the water heater room, turn off the main, go outside, take the skirting off midway through the house where the utility room is, crawl underneath there. There's going to be a blue and a red pipe, hot and cold water going up that wall right there. See if it's in the T that tees off and goes over to the other bathroom. Like, I know them inside and out. So there's things that I see that then I can navigate and do remotely to help the cause. And that's not going to be with a guy that hasn't done it. And it's just no way, no how are they going to know what I'm seeing in my head from seeing hundreds of them. They can't navigate that. And so then they're calling the contractor that's busy and calling through 4 of them, especially in these smaller towns, to try to get somebody out there. And then 2 days later, they're there, got a big mess on our hands 2 days later. And then they get it fixed, and then they're paying X amount to get it fixed. That contractor says, well, my buddy Tim needs to come in and do this, this, and that, because this is what happened. And they don't have any idea. They just wouldn't have any idea. There's no way. So they rely on that guy. They trust him, and all of a sudden they've spent $5,000 on something that should have been fixed for $800. So no, I think that for an operator that's going to come in and try to do tenant-owned and park-owned homes, definitely go that tenant-owned route. And if they're park-owned homes, maybe deal with a couple of them and figuring it out and see if it works for you, because everybody's different. You may catch on to a park-owned home model just bam in a month, and you feel confident, and all of a sudden AJ says, man, I could do 10 of these in a park. If I'm going to make $20,000 a month in gross on 10 mobile homes or 15 mobile homes that are park owned versus 400 lot lease, I want the park owned homes. But that's not going to be everybody. So I definitely say go ahead with caution and be real cautious about it and find what fits you for sure.
So what would you say is your deal sourcing method? Are you going through brokers? Are you doing direct mail? Is it mostly relationships? Are you looking at tax liens, delinquent taxes? What are you looking at to find these deals?
I got to tell you, I got to be better at this. So I am sourcing a lot of deals, but I spend a lot of time sourcing them. I've always used wholesale people, even when we were flipping, always. Just been able to get in with some good wholesale people and kind of, I think if you aren't just asking for your one deal and then splitting, or even if you're not going to do 9 out of 10 of the deals, if they know that you're underwriting them and spending time trying to make the deal work, that they're more apt to let you see every deal. And so I've just been able to get in with some good wholesalers. I've got brokers. If they're in Texas, like if I drive by a mobile home park, AJ, today, and I see it, I'm pulling in there and I'm going in and not asking the office manager or whoever's there, where's the owner at? So I would do that with any real estate transaction. I'm real good at just putting myself out there and walking in and talking and shaking hands and saying, this is what I do. This is what I'd like to do. Who do I talk to? And I have yet to start really diving in. Now I do use one of my apps on my phone that I use for figuring out lot dimensions and all that for my new builds, gives me information on the person and the owner. So I'll go and if I see a mobile home park and nobody's there, I'll check it out and see who it is. And then I research online, figure out who it is, try to find a phone number. But man, I haven't done any mailers, and I know I need to do that. But more importantly, I think I need somebody that just works pretty much maybe 2 or 3 days a week on creating the ma and pa leads, because that's what I'm looking for is the ma and pa. I want those 20, 30, 40 unit parks that have a lot of upside, that need a lot of work, just that need a ton of CapEx out at the beginning, but after you turn them around, they're a completely different jewel. That's my cup of tea. So I need to get better at it. I am not the best at that with the mobile home park thing. There's only one of me. So I'm trying to do all these things and navigate what I'm doing right now and stay on top of the parks we've got in escrow, the parks I have that we're doing tons of CapEx on, keeping tenants happy, keeping the guys happy, keeping my wife happy. It's a lot. So I neglect what I can. And a lot of that is the going after parks in the way I need to go after them. And it's one of my New Year's resolutions. Like I've got to figure it out for next year, because it'll help me tremendously to not even have to look for the parks, just put it on somebody else's plate and work something out with them to find these mom and pop pops and bring them to me.
Maybe someone who's listening can help you. Would you drop a way for them to contact you just real quick?
Absolutely. So email and text is the best way, or even on Facebook. If I get I'm pretty responsive on Facebook because I get those little pop-ups from Messenger. But email is troybuiltcommunities@gmail.com. And my Facebook is just Troy Helton. And if you drop me a message there, that'd be great. And my phone number, I mean, if text, I look at texts all day long. Sometimes I don't answer my phone, but if somebody sends me a text, I'll be sure and get right back to them. And my phone number is 254-436-0077. So I'll go through it again. My email is troybuiltcommunities@gmail.com. And my phone number is 254-436-0077.
So what are some of the most underappreciated challenges in operating mobile home parks, whether it's utilities, tenant issues, local regulations? What are some of the things that have been the most irksome for you or the most challenging to deal with?
Finding people to get tasks accomplished. You can always find somebody to start them. You can always find somebody to talk about starting them or saying they're going to finish them, but actually having somebody follow through with what they say they're going to follow through with, that has been the hardest thing by far. And I don't care what state it has been. I mean, it is a constant struggle.
Yeah. And I've had that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say what kind of improvements would you say are the biggest difference makers when it comes to value or tenant satisfaction?
I would say absolutely roads, number one, taking care of the potholes and giving them a good, clean place to drive around in. And then clutter, cars, trees, shrubs, and a generally clean park changes it like you wouldn't believe. And then your number one thing that you have to do immediately is get rid of the problem tenants, no matter what it costs you. The people who are bringing down, one person in a 30-unit park can completely change a 30-unit park and derail you from your goals in the blink of an eye. Whether you're buying the park or you just screwed up, and I mean, we're not perfect, we're human, but I make mistakes every single day. So I get a unit that I really want to get a tenant in, and I blow it, and they snowball me, and I background check them, and everything checks out, and we put them in there, and they are just horrible tenants. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, cops being called, whatever it is, that one tenant can just completely derail the whole community. So I say, the minute you take over a park, find out who the bad tenants are, and you can hear it immediately, get rid of them. Secondly, rules. You've got to have your rules. Everybody's got to be on the same page. You have to enforce them. Any cars that aren't being used or do not run got to leave. Any of the junk, clutter, whatever's got to be taken care of immediately. The park's got to be cleaned up to where it feels good. I look at a park, I tell people this all the time. The reason why I try so hard at every park is when I go and stay at my parks. So I'll literally close escrow on a park. I'll take a trailer and I'm staying in that park for 2 weeks working on the park, learning who the tenants are, who's good, who's bad, who may be in between, who might want to help at the park. I want to get a good feel for it. Plus, I can knock a ton of stuff out in those 2 weeks. Stuff that was hidden from us really needs to be done, right? Well, I want to feel good when I drive into that park. Just like when you flip a place, man. They're never going to feel like home because it's different than our home, where you want your flip to feel like your house, right? You want it to be fantastic. You want it to feel unique and feel good and have a good vibe. And I want that same thing in this mobile home park for a family that can't afford that $700,000, $600,000, $500,000 price point. But I want to feel like I can take my trailer in there and stay for a couple of weeks and I'm not in harm's way. I'm in a great clean place that makes me proud to be the owner. And I really take that as like, that is my number one goal, is to make it a place that I'm proud of when I walk in there or when I
And
drive.
that personal touch is a differentiator, because you have some outfits that are nationwide, billions of dollars worth of assets under management, and it is very corporate. It's something where there's a CEO and a vice president, and there's all these different people that never actually even see the park. They never actually go there. It's just their numbers on a spreadsheet, and they've got someone who's on the ground, maybe, that is a manager, but again, that person probably isn't staying at the park. And so by you getting that on the ground understanding of like, okay, here's what's actually going on. People talk to me because I'm here every day and I hear about so-and-so down the street doing some whatever. You get a better understanding of like, this is the actual culture that's being cultivated here. And then you can affect that.
Yes. And you really, I mean, I think you present the park with a feel to the tenants, like the tenants really feel that you care. Like, and it wasn't something that I did like, hey, this is what I'm going to do to gain over these tenants and be different. It's just how I do things. And it ends up that when I did it, it was like, man, they really respect you. First off, they know that you're really trying to create a community instead of a trailer park. And I found that like they want to help. They want to live in a better place. They've just never been given the opportunity. They feel unheard. They can't call the owner. They can't talk to the owner. And maybe in 2 years, like I said, I'll have to change things. And maybe I'll have somebody who fields these calls for me because I can't at that point or whatever. But it's not going to change the way I do things, and the way that I look at this business is I want to provide a community feel to people who can't afford to live the way the 1% live, let's call it. So that middle class is getting destroyed right now. More people are needing affordable housing, and they should have every opportunity. If they're a good person that goes to work every day and does what you and I do and raises a family or whatever their case may be, why do they not deserve to live in a good community with a feel like they're safe? Their kids can go out and play. They can live a great life in a place that they're proud to bring their mom or their dad or their cousins or whatever into and show them their home. And that's super important to me.
So you've historically gone solo. You're expanding, you're bringing on other investors, some capital partners. Why expand in that direction? Why bring on investors?
Because I can't. I would like to, man, I really would like to own 20, 30, 40, 50 parks in the next 10 years. And there's no way to ever accomplish that by yourself. I'm even finding right now that, like, if you bring in just even a small percentage partner that wants to be in it, and whether they know parks right now or they're willing to learn them or whatever, you get another dynamic in the whole. Say you've got you and a partner, and now you throw in two more that are minor partners, but they want to learn it, and maybe they're very good with organization or websites or whatever it is that they're very good at, but they're also good at some other things. Number one, they're going to help me out tremendously because there's a lot of things that I lack at, and I'm learning something new every day when it comes to computers and software and podcasts and all these things. Raising capital, I was really good at raising capital when it was me and an investor sitting right in front of me at lunch and we're shaking hands. But doing all this other stuff and Facebook and Instagram and keeping up on it, man, that's not my cup of tea. I am not that guy. Am I doing it right now? Barely, but doing some of it because I have to, but it's not what I'm good at. And then I'm really not good anymore at dealing with counties and cities, because what they put me through for 10 years in California and Arizona made me really resent the whole bureaucratic hate at building and permits and control, and like it makes me bitter talking about it. And is there another person that is way better at that than me, but I can help guide them because I know every which way around it and entitlements, and I've done it all. I just don't like doing it, and it makes me angry to do. So I figure when I reach out and I have other partners and investors alike, they're going to teach me a lot that I need to still learn, because I just never think there's enough you can learn. Like, I think somebody who doesn't even do real estate can come in today and teach me something that's going to change my focus point or change my trajectory over the next 10 years, because I'm listening and I'm willing to learn that from them. And so I think like having different partners just brings so much more to the table in trying to grow and scale and broaden my thinking and my horizons, I guess you'd say. It's like just opening up new stuff to me is why I like bringing in different people to my deals.
So what kind of partners are you looking for? Are you looking for passive LPs? Are you looking for joint venture capital? Are you looking for people to hold on to this long term with you? What are you looking for?
So I'm kind of looking for both. I mean, LPs, limited partnership. I need the capital influx into these LLCs that I build for these certain projects. And passively, I'm okay with that as long as they're not my main partner, I should say. I really want somebody to have some skin in the game that wants to learn or already is in the mobile home industry, that helps me be better and I help them be better, and we can do better things together. But then I'm not asking anybody to stay long term, because I don't like, a lot of these will be legacy properties for me, right? I'd like to leave some of these to my kids and really help them as they get older and they've got families and all that stuff. But I don't look at any park that I'm buying, I haven't so far yet, that I want to sell. There's not one of them where I'm like, hey, in 5 years, this is the opt out. So I would rather have partners that want to put in, or limited partners or investors or whatever it is. Say you put in 200,000 into a deal, you're going to get X percentage for return on your 200,000, and you're going to own this much of the mobile home park. And if you don't like being in deals for 10 years, then we structure your part of the deal to where we borrow the capital, you get the percentage of ownership. Upon 5 years, your capital comes back to you. You retain a percentage of ownership for the life of it. And if you would like to be bought out of your percentage, then we value the percentage at that point in time and buy the person out. Otherwise, they stay in, but they have zero control, zero say so in the park, zero of how it goes, 0-0. So it's cut and dry. But the people who come in and want to be a partner in the deal and even want to put in capital and still be part of something and learn, those they're basically in my email chain, they're in my text chain, they're going to know everything that's going on in the park. I take into consideration what everybody says, no matter what. Like, I want to hear the input. There's a lot of things that I'm going to overlook that you're going to see, or you're going to say something that gives me brighter eyes. And I go, man, that's a great idea. If I take what I was saying and add this to it, this is a great idea. So I'm kind of open for what any of the above. I just don't want to have 10 guys in one deal or 10 investors. And I don't want to have a mail chain that all I do is just, here's your payments every month, and we're operating the mobile home park. And in 5 years, all this work that I did, we're just going to sell and we're going to make a little bit of money and walk away. Like, I've done that for 25 years now, for real. I mean, that's all I've done. Make a bunch of money, it all goes away. I mean, that's really what happens with it. And with the mobile home park thing, I feel like you're building something for the future. You're building something that can be bigger than you, that can last for your kids and your family. And that's what I'm doing. I want to build something that lasts a long time.
So last question for you. And this is actually an audience question. This is from Ray, one of my buddies, Ray Freeman. If you were to lose it all and you had to start fresh today, what would you do?
Real estate. I would, man, if I had to start from scratch today, I'd do something to pay the bills in real estate. and I would grind and fight and kick my way into some kind of mobile home park or multifamily. And really, mobile home park more than multifamily. I like the apartment deal. I've owned some fourplexes and some eightplexes and blah, blah, blah. But I like helping these families. So I would scratch, kick, scream, whatever I had to do probably to get into a whatever mobile home park it was. If it was 6 units, 8 units, 10 units, and I'd keep doing that side gig, and I would perfect the one again. And then I would try to get into another mobile home park. I've never seen something in real estate that I believe that is as powerful as mobile home parks. I believe that. I think that they're here for good. There's less mobile home parks in the United States every year because it's so hard to build them, and there's more low income, middle class people that need mobile home parks and this kind of living arrangement every year. So I see being able to help people and to help my business and to help me. There's no better way than the return in mobile home parks and the write-offs in mobile home parks and the ability to expand. So that's what I would do.
You've done a lot. So you've done a lot. So this is something that's informed. It's not someone who's just done mobile home parks their whole life, or they inherited a mobile home park from their father and that's all they know. Like, you've done a lot. You've sold things. You sold a lot of different things, invented a product. You run multiple blue collar businesses, which we haven't even talked about. You've flipped over 200 houses and you own these mobile home parks. Like, you've done a lot. And this is what you would double down on, is buying more of these mobile home parks.
Absolutely. If I could have done it earlier in my career, there was just absolutely no way for me, or there was a way. I just didn't focus on it. Like, there was no focus. I knew I wanted it back in 2009 or 10, but in Southern California, man, you're going a million miles an hour just to keep up and to stay ahead of the next guy. And so there's no time to where I could focus my energy into figuring it out. And I would have had to go out of state. There's no way I could have started there with mobile home parks. So yeah, this has been a long time coming. It just finally materialized 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. But I love the way he said that too. If you were to lose everything today, what would you do? And man, I've lost everything 3 times, I think, now in my career. And it always gravitates back to real estate. I mean, it just does. It's something that if you love real estate, you're never going to leave it. And I'll do it till the day I die because I'll never stop. I might slow down and I might take months off here and there when I'm older, but I won't stop. It's going to keep my head going, my mind going, hopefully keep my body going. And it's a great career path and a great way to secure your retirement if you keep at it.
Awesome. Well, Troy, thanks for coming on the show. For folks listening who want to connect with you, invest potentially, or follow your work, where should they go?
I'd say Facebook, and I need to be better at that. I have the Troy Built Communities Facebook page, and I'll post some stuff, but I'm lackadaisical about it. It's like once every 3 weeks or a month I post, and I really need to get better at all that stuff. Like I was saying, I really need to just focus on some of that. And then my personal Facebook page, I post stuff on too. And man, I love talking real estate. So if anybody ever has questions or I might not be able to answer it, but I might know somebody who can, and I might have an idea of how to answer it, whether it be something that's completely off the beaten path, or if it's a mobile home question, an RV park question, a construction question, whatever. Feel free to reach out to me. Send me a message. I'll make availability. I'll make 30 minutes to call and talk about it and see if I can help you out. And I'll probably learn something in that 30 minutes from you. And so I really like to talk real estate. So I think the best way to get a hold of me is either email, text, or Facebook. I don't really do anything else, and I'm kind of horrible at Facebook, like I said. Next year is going to be better.
Email,
have somebody helping you.
Huh? What's that?
Oh, I said next year's going to be better on the Facebook. I'll have somebody help me. I got to get some help on that.
Hey, I know some people. If you want some help, I can send your way. But if someone wanted to reach out to you, could you drop that email and that phone number again?
Yes. Email Troy Built Communities @gmail.com, and then just text me anytime, day or night. I'm always looking at texts. 254-436-0077.
Nice. Thank you. And guys, for all of you listening, if this episode gave you ideas, motivation, or strategy, please leave a comment, reach out to Troy, and share this with someone if you feel like it'd be valuable for them. Either if there's someone who's currently a mortgage officer, or someone who's currently in sales, or someone who's invented a product, or someone who invests in real estate or does flip houses. There's a lot of different things that we covered here. There's a lot of advice, a lot of wisdom that Troy shared today. So please share this episode with somebody who you think would benefit from it. Keep an eye out on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram for different reels that we will be releasing from this interview. There's going to be a lot of different wisdom nuggets coming out. But most of all, thank you all for listening to the Capital Conversations podcast. I've been AJ Smith interviewing Troy Helton, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.